Hi guys, my name is Girish, the host for Back to Basics, another Back to Basics for another week. I hope you're enjoying as much as I am. So guys, today we have a mentor, a speaker, and an author, or is all three in one? Is it just three people or is it just one person? We'll figure that out. But his name is Sam. I've spoken to him several times, maybe 5 times, maybe more than that, in the span of maybe 3 weeks. And I've known him so long, it seems like so long, meaning 3 weeks, because you know what, think about this 1 second. When we talk to someone, we understand just by instant that I've known him for years. So just keep that in mind of how this episode is going to go on. So guys, he's very intelligent, very mentoring, and he will give you some insights of his book and his journey and some motivational speak also. So Sam, thank you for coming on my show.
Thanks for having me, and I just look forward to being able to share with your audience and, like you say, hopefully provide some insights and nuggets of information that can help.
Of course, nuggets are always welcome here in Back to Basics. But before we get into the basics of your life and the book and your journey and all this happy, fun stuff, what does Back to Basic mean to you?
Back to basics means that I think sometimes we get so caught up and busy with our lives in autopilot, the routine and what we're doing, that we sometimes forget the significance of what we do. And back to basic for me is sometimes peeling the skin of that onion and peeling that onion to get to what really matters and what resonates for you.
Hmm.
Because I think that's where some of our essence and our motivation and who we are as individuals lies. And I think sometimes we don't just overlook it, we pass over it, and we don't really appreciate or respect the person that we are because we haven't really taken the time to go back to the basics.
Yeah. It's really ironic that it's happening the time when this whole COVID thing is happening. But
Mhm.
besides all that, I think we tend to forget the basics of life in general. And sometimes, you know, we go for money and fame and all that, but then we tend to forget the actual goal that what we started with. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, thank you for that, Sam, on that part. So obviously Sam is not the real name. so so explain that, because I think you explained to me beautifully when we were on the call the other day.
Yeah. So my given name, I was born in England, and the given name was Ajit, which it's a beautiful name. I mean, and I think it totally is representative and reflective of me. Ajit means unconquerable.
Yeah.
And this is where my life has really become a foundation. But it wasn't a matter of British, making it British or Canadianizing a name. My parents, when I was like 2 years old, just as a pet name, just started calling me Sam, and it stuck. And next thing you're in Canada, you're growing up, and it's just they kept calling me Sam, and the name Sam stuck. And it's always funny because on all my legal documents, Sam doesn't exist. And
Okay.
equally at the same time, my birthday is June 30th, but I was born on June 30th, but my birth certificate says July 1st.
Okay.
So you think about it,
Yeah.
my name's not right and my birthday's not right. Do I really exist?
Yeah, sometimes we tend to forget that if we are here in the right place or not place. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great insight on that. So tell me about what you do before we get into the book of that, Sam. Go ahead.
Sure. So there are 5 things that guide and direct me in life:
Hmm.
servant leadership, story sharing, activator igniter, champion enabler, and community do gooder.
Hmm.
Those 5 things become my foundation and things that I'm not willing to compromise. And as a result of those 5 things, it's guided me so that I'm a storyteller, speaker, author, writer. I'm a mentor and a coach. I'm also an entrepreneur. Call myself a problem solver as well, and an educator where I teach at university as well. And I'm a community activator. So all of these things establish who I am. But the foundation is whether it's an individual, team, organization, a nonprofit, I look to share with them to try to make them better than what they are, and
Mm-hmm.
not in my view and perspective,
Mm-hmm.
but just to be there to guide and support them so that they become the best for themselves.
Sure. Have you been successful in that manner of mentoring people? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it's different when you listen and do the
Mhm.
stuff when you listen. So
Yeah. It's I do about 3 to 8 conversations per week. It's
yeah,
been about 5,000 conversations over the last 20 plus years.
yeah.
And I'm still connected to the people I met 20, 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an amazing place to be. I'm surrounded by greatness.
Yeah.
I always look at it as Sir Isaac Newton said it, where I've only been able to see far because I stood on the shoulder of giants.
Mm.
By helping individuals in their life and career over the span of 25 years,
Mm.
I've seen people go to greatness.
Yeah.
And as a result, we're on a journey collectively. And it's a wonderful place. I don't do it for money, I don't do it for status, I don't do it for notoriety. I do it because nobody was there to support when I needed support. So
Sure.
as a result, I want to be the champion and enabler, the activator, igniter to help people in their journey.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I describe it is, if you ever watch, for example, like the gold medal ice hockey game,
Mm-hmm.
and after the team wins the gold medal, they storm off the bench onto the center ice and they're cheering and hugging. The coach doesn't get the medal,
Mm.
but the coach stands in the back, arms folded, and has this amazing grin on his face of satisfaction.
Yeah.
And that's how my life is. I'm that coach in the background.
Yeah. Yeah. But how do you find people, or is it people finding you? How does
People
that
come
work?
to me.
Really?
Yeah, people come to me. I mean, on a regular and constant basis, they'll either someone told them to, or they were a former student of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I'll get emails or LinkedIn. Sam, can we meet up for coffee? Can we meet for tea? And then as we progress in a conversation, then next thing you know, we're talking about life. We're talking about career, and what's on their mind. And I always say that I'm a mentor and a coach, because the way I look at coaching is, if you have no idea the direction you want to go, coaching is what we should do.
Mm-hmm.
Just to ask those questions. Mentorship is where you may have a better idea of where you want to go. And as a result, then it's like guiding them in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I sit with somebody, it's always different.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be more like, what do you want to talk about today? And I let them start out and we guide the conversation from there. But no, it's been overwhelmingly successful because of the fact that these individuals have gone on to careers, graduate schools, you name it, they're doing it, and they're with so many different organizations.
Yeah. Yeah. But the question now is, Sam, that how do you disconnect between your
Mhm.
background and your feelings versus an actual answer that people are looking for? I think it's tough to disconnect and then connect with them, right?
Mhm. Well, I think for me, it's not really a challenge, or I find it difficult, because really what I do is, when I go into these conversations, I'm totally clear on this clean slate type of thing. And what I do is I listen to what they have to say. So for me, I'm not bringing any biases but what I'm doing is listening to what they say. And I've got a catalog of these stories in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, it's like, well, let me share with you this idea. Let me share with you this. But what I don't do is tell them what to do.
Yeah.
So the idea is, I call myself a difficult monk. In other words, they come to me because they think of me as this orange saffron bearded man. Now I have a beard, but at the same time, I'm not orange saffron sitting on top of a mountain.
Mm.
What they're looking for is the answer. And what I will be is the difficult monk, because I'm not going to give you the answer. I'm just going to ask a lot of questions. And as a result of these questions, the monk that they seek is within them. It's a matter of pulling it out. So I never find it a challenge or difficult, because I think it all blends together, watercolor style, where they come to me because they know that I've got this listening ear and they know that I'm never going to tell them what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking for this support and guidance. But equally, I open up my channels and say, okay, well, you're interested in a big four accounting firm. Let me put you in touch with a couple of the people and talk to them and see what it's like. And it's about really sort of laying out a bit of a pathway and a plan for them. But I've never had a problem where it's like separating. It's more of all of these stories that I've accumulated over these years
Mm-hmm.
has brought me to where I am, because the whole reason for these setbacks that I've had in my life, that the successes I've had, is it's meant to be shared.
Yeah, yeah. And but Sam, but when we tend to get older, we tend to forget certain stories. So are those stories in that book that you have created?
Mhm. Yeah, so the first book I wrote is about personal storytelling, and the second book is about the journey to India.
Mm.
The first book emerged out of my first TEDx talk, which was discovering the extraordinary out of the ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
And it was to help people realize and catalog their stories. And that's why I've never forgotten my stories, because there's a concept that I came up with. So carpe diem is seize the day, but carpe is what I do to capture these stories, and I share with people this is how they can do it too.
Mm-hmm.
Carpe stands for basically it stands for curiosity, appreciation, reflection, perspectives, and experience.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is I share with people that they need to be curious. They need to go through life with a bit more of a curious nature. If you're going on a walk to, let's say I go to pick up my kids from school,
Mm-hmm.
take a different pathway.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see? A stands for appreciation. Appreciate things for more than what's the obvious.
Mm-hmm.
R stands for reflection. In other words, this is where you start adding purpose and meaning, and it starts converting from ordinary to extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
And perspectives means we all have our own perspectives, and they all emerge from different sources. What are your perspectives?
Mm-hmm.
And how does that relate to this story?
Mm-hmm.
And the final one, which is really important, is experience. What I mean by that is you have to catalog this as an experience. It's almost like you date stamp it and you capture it. Because if you don't capture the essence of what's happening or what's happened,
Mm-hmm.
your story dies an untimely death. And
Sure.
it will never be told, it'll never be remembered.
Yeah.
So that's the principle that I think helps it. But it's like I've got this virtual catalog of stories, and it's about helping people pull their own stories.
Yeah, yeah. But how do you start? I mean, let's say if I came to you, how do you start?
Mhm,
Do you explain who you are,
mhm.
or do you just sit down and just wait what they've come up with?
Yeah. Again, oftentimes I never even have to tell them who I am, because they've already done the research,
Of
and
course. Yes.
so they've come to me, and they said we need support. So it's more like, for example, I think in the next day or two I've got a coaching session, and the person says, look, I've been in industry for a period of time, and now when we sit down, I'm going to say, okay, tell me about what where you are right now, but also what are some of the things that have led you to where you are today.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to listen to it and learn. But then it's about sharing also, to say not what you do. I want to know who you are. And I think we're so focused on what we do
Mm-hmm.
that we miss the obvious of realizing who are you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to know who the people are. And we can always go to LinkedIn and find out what people do, but people have a really hard time of explaining and expressing and articulating who they are.
Hmm. So, is it tough to answer that question sometimes?
Oh,
Because
it's always tough for the people. Yeah.
yeah. So how do you drag that? Because now I'm thinking in my mind that's why there was a little pause, and I questioned myself about that. It looks like it's going to take me a while to figure out who are you, right? Or
So,
what we do. I mean, those are the questions come in my mind, and the answer
mhm,
doesn't come out quickly.
no. And that's the part that I work with. So when I'm teaching my class at university,
Yeah.
I make every student in week 2
Yeah.
and week 12 write a personal statement. In other words, I'm an individual who, and I get them to capture the essence of who they are. And oftentimes in the beginning, they'll write it as a resume. I'm an individual who does this, 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 this. And then I go back and I say, okay, but tell me why you do this stuff. And then it's a bit more complicated and difficult. But the idea is that if, let's say you go for a job interview and someone says, well, tell me about who you are. Well, this is what happens all the time. We look up to the ceiling because that's where the answers are, and we'll use the standard. Well, I'm a hard worker. I'm somebody who communicates well. I work well in teams, and I'm a perfectionist.
Hmm.
So is everyone else.
Sure.
When someone asks me, Sam, tell me who you are, I always say, there are 5 things that guide and direct me in life: servant leadership, story sharing, activator igniter, champion enabler, and community do gooder. Those 5 things have provided me the tools so that I can actually help people, teams, organizations, nonprofits to become the best that they can be. It's an activated, and then I go into the storytelling, speaking, and all of that. But the idea is you have this articulated statement that tells you who you are. Now, the important thing is you can change this anytime.
Hmm.
People are fearful that, if I come up with a statement, I mean, this is it, it's date stamped, and this is who I'm going to be for the rest of my life. And I'm like, no, you're going to change and always change that personal statement. But how do you want to describe yourself to somebody that you meet so that it's interesting, it's engaging, and they have much more of an interest in wanting to connect with you?
Yeah, yeah. But before I get to the next question,
Mm-hmm.
out of the 5 elements, which one are you?
Oh, all 5 of those. I'm comprised of all 5, and I call this the 5 core elements. That's the tool that I use to really explore and ask people, tell me about who you are. I said, tell me 5 things that make up your foundation. I mean, think of it this way: to build a house, you need a solid foundation. To build a life, we need a solid foundation.
Yeah.
But we always put the cart before the horse in that, because we go down a pathway of getting a job, and then it becomes our career and all. But does this resonate? Is this what you are meant to do? And is this what you're supposed to be doing? What I'm asking before all of that is, let's create this foundation. So whatever you are doing, does it relate? And how many of the 5 does it hit? Now, anything I embrace, the writing, the speaking, any speaking on podcasts, any of the things, has to hit 5 out of 5.
Hmm.
So I've got something as a balance mechanism. And I think this is a really important thing for so many of your listeners to really start focusing on: is what are the 5 things that make up your foundation? And these will change over time.
Mm-hmm.
But the important question to ask is, why is this important to you? So I can articulate why each one of the 5 things I gave you is really important for me, and makes up that foundation. But that's the exercise that I really stress with the people that I work with.
Yeah, yeah. So I will have to go over those 5 elements on my own and try to see which one am I, or all 5 of them are. I mean, they should be all 5 of them, actually, according to your example.
Yeah, and yours might be, obviously, they're going to be different than the 5 that I have.
Sure.
I mean, and it's a matter of, personalizing it. I had somebody in Los Angeles I was talking to, and, she was telling me about how she really, one of the things that's important to her is, doing what she can for the environment and being present for the environment, and, you know, really putting an effort towards that. And I just said, "Oh, so you're an environmental ninja?" And she was like, "Oh my gosh, can I use that?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's your word." And she said, "Okay, I'm an environmental ninja," because it just is another creative way that sparks the interest of people. Oh, so what's an environmental ninja?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you. So coming up with creative words.
Yeah, yeah. Just want to explain something to the listeners here. So, guys, when I spoke with Sam like a couple of weeks back, 3 weeks back, right, and I explained to him what Back to Basics is all about, and I gave him a whole spiel as what Back to Basics is, try to make it complicated, simplified, and all that stuff, right? So, and then I have different topics and different days of the week, as you all know. Today is one of the motivational speaking. So you are on what day? You figure that out. You tell me what day you are in. But what he told me is Back to Basics is more of a plate, okay? And a whole bunch of food inside is more like a buffet of topics inside that plate. So it made me think a little that I should be advertising it this way, that, you know what, I am a plate of Back to Basics and I have a whole bunch of topics in my plate. So he's a very motivational guy, and try to define who you are just by talking, I don't know, 20 minutes that we spoke. And it seems like it's just amazing on that part, right, Sam? Thank you so much for that. And I kept on using it since we have last spoken. So it's great on that part.
Nice.
So what else do you do? I'm besides talking to your clients and motivate them in many different ways and try to find out what their elements of foundation is. Is there any other workshop that you do, like a physical workshop that you do?
Oh, I mean, I speak at conferences, either as a keynote speaker or workshop facilitator. And again, it depends on what the audience is. And I mean, I've spoken at universities and colleges on student engagement and the whole journey of the students. I've spoken at uh, various business conferences where we talk about the importance of relationship management. And it's also about the alignment piece of understanding the people in your organization and how do you have them work at the optimal level when they better have a better understanding and appreciation of who they are.
Yeah.
So it allows them that opportunity. So there's various topics. I mean, there's obviously topics I won't talk about, and it's not from sensitivity, it's just comfort level.
That's right.
But storytelling, personal branding, relationship management, the post-secondary education or the transition from high school to education to post-secondary. There's a number of topics that I'm very comfortable with,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the ones that I seek, but that's also the ones that come to me as well, where people are like, wait, can we get you to speak at this event because of this?
Mm. Yeah, but that's the set of fixed mindset versus growth mindset, right? So don't you think you should be out of your comfort zone to talk about the other zones, or do you think you're a little hesitant to do that?
It's not so much hesitant or I'm just in that comfort zone. I think what it happens is that I'm in my element when I'm able to share the stories that I think are able to help. Like, I think I've been given a platform as well as these experiences to address these audiences on these specific topics. Like, but this is where, like, if I was asked to speak at a digital media conference about how to, grow your business. Now, there are components of that that I certainly could talk about. Value proposition. I could talk about, the whole aspect of stakeholder relations and engaging your customers. Those things I can do. But when it comes to the digital marketing piece, or let's say if it's web design and things, well, those things I don't do. There are professionals who do that space.
Hmm.
So it's not so much, just only focusing on the key things that I feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
It's also related to that is the fact that if you need me to script something, like in other words, you give me a script and you want me to do this, I can't do it. I don't do scripts. But
Yeah.
if you give me a topic and what's maybe help me with some key messaging,
Sure.
I'm going to give you something that is going to just wow you. I mean, I had to speak at a conference in Zimbabwe or Bahrain. I built the presentation in the airport and then unrehearsed, I got up and delivered. They wanted 1 hour. Almost to the second, I gave them 1 hour.
Hmm.
That's the element that I'm in. And again, it's not so much just comfort and repetition. I tailor make every presentation,
Of course.
and they're all very special to me.
Of course. Thank you so much for that. Because sometimes you should stay within sometimes, and it's okay to say no
Mhm.
to the outside zone. And I want people to understand that, because there's a reason why I asked that question. Because some people, they go out of their comfort zone and they're not comfortable. And if
Mhm.
they want to experiment something, yes, you should go out of your comfort zone. But when you're
Mhm.
not, then I think it's okay to stay in your zone, but be good at it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you try to do,
Yeah.
and you are doing.
Oh, oh no, totally. And I think when you're in that place where it resonates, you're not just good, you're great.
Yeah.
And it's not from a bragging or cockiness, but just more of that confidence piece. But this is also where if I had to speak at just before COVID and started, I had to speak at the Wall Climbing Association,
Mm,
and here I've got nothing really to do with wall climbing, but we talked, and then they said, well, really, it's about these businesses that are struggling during COVID, and what are some of the things that we can do?
mm.
So that part I could do. I'm not going to talk about the wall climbing, but I did talk to people that run wall climbing areas just to hear what their concerns are.
Of course.
But I structured it based on that. So you can certainly speak in different areas,
Yeah.
but just make sure it's the things that you're comfortable with. And you'd be amazed at what you'd be able to accomplish by sharing things that resonate for yourself.
Yeah. So, Sam, when we spoke last time, you
Mhm.
showed me a puzzle and you showed me a dice. Can you explain the analogy of that, please, if you don't mind? And I know, guys and listeners, I know it's going to be tough for the audio part to understand this, so that's where you go for the YouTube. But if you don't want to go there, we will try to explain as much as we can of what Sam is trying to explain here. So go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, sure. And this is where the art of storytelling comes in because you're really creating a visual image, even for the people who may not see it.
Exactly.
So, what I do is I carry with me puzzle pieces. And what I do is I hold one single piece of a jigsaw puzzle. And I always say that if I was to give you this single piece of a jigsaw puzzle, what can you do with one piece?
Hmm.
And the answer is, really not much. It's just one piece. But oftentimes, what I say is, this is what people feel like. They feel like that single piece of a jigsaw puzzle. They're not sure where they fit in. They don't even know what the bigger picture is. This is what we feel like, and
Yeah.
it's ordinary. But I'm going to change that and make it extraordinary and transform. The idea is that instead of thinking and feeling like that single piece of a jigsaw puzzle, instead look at the source. If I was to give you a single piece of a jigsaw puzzle, do you realize my puzzle is going to be permanently incomplete without you? Do you realize how much I need you and how much you matter? Because there will always be that gap if you are not part of my puzzle.
Hmm.
And that's a simple way that I've just converted something from ordinary into extraordinary. And I've given about 5,000 pieces in the world to date just to remind people how important they are. And I've heard from people saying, and I've seen the transformation on the face when I share this with them.
Hmm.
That they're hungry for this because it's a sense of connectedness.
Yeah.
I've got people who tell me it's taped to their mirror every morning they wake up. It's there and it reminds them someone told them how important they are. It's in little curio boxes of their most prized possessions. It's traveling in backpacks around the world. It's in wallets. And when I see them at an event, they pull it out and they show me that I still have your puzzle piece.
Hmm.
Or people come frantically looking for me saying, I lost the piece. I need it. I feel disconnected.
Yeah.
Could I get another piece?
Yeah.
That's a simple example of how you take something ordinary and turn it into something extraordinary with just a simple story, simple analogy that really resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah. Isn't that really actually going back to basics on that?
Mhm.
Last time when we spoke on that, I actually took a notepad, a sticky pad, and I drew a puzzle and put on top of my monitor to remind me of what you have just explained just now. And I see that every time whenever I work at my desk here.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for
Well,
that
I
and
have
making me
to.
understand. Go ahead.
No, I have to send you a piece of this puzzle.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. Now, regarding the dice, I think you
Mhm.
also explained about the dice. So explain that.
Well, now there's again, I'd have to go back and think about that one because normally it's the puzzle analogy, but even with the dice, I mean, again, it's something that we can use for, you know, playing with games and things like that. That's its function. But actually, a dice is also reflective, and this is just something that may or may not be exactly what we talked about. But a dice is also very reflective of our life. I mean, we roll the chances and we'll see what we get. Now, we hope for something, but it may not be what we're looking for. So the idea is the dice is there as a reminder that, there are changes that happen on such a regular basis.
Mm.
And we just have to be flexible with it. And you know what? You roll the dice again, you roll it again. And most times it's not going to be what you're looking for, but then let's see where it takes you and go in the direction based on where it's guiding you and directing you. And again, I'm not sure if that's the analogy we had in the past.
It was. It was.
Mm.
It was. It's like taking chances. It's
Totally.
it's like saying taking luck by chance. That's what it is, right? Technically.
Well, I mean, a dice doesn't have one number. Like all six sides don't have the number six on it.
Yeah.
It's got it. You never know what you're going to roll, and you know it's. But that's the exciting part. And one of my favorite quotes is, "Obstacles are the necessary bricks on a road to success." In other words, you're looking for a six, you get a one. Okay, so it wasn't what I wanted. How is this going to help me? And then move in that direction and say, okay, so it's not what I was looking for, but equally I got something.
Mm.
What does this mean?
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Sam. So before I let you go,
Mhm.
any last words that you have for Back to Basics, and how was your moment coming on my
Mhm.
show here?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it in the sense that I appreciate what you're really helping people do, which is to peel that onion, to get to the core, to really understand, that it's not sometimes very complicated. A lot of the things that I share, people will be like, wow, that makes so much sense. But it's actually straightforward and basic. But sometimes that's what we need to do is really pull back and say, okay, but let's get back to this foundational piece.
Yeah.
I mean, that also relates to, the book that I wrote about the journey to India and, back to the basics. I wanted to go find my ancestral roots with just a faded photograph, little else. But what happened is I was open to the experience, and it was also discovering my own personal identity as a foreigner going to a land that shouldn't be foreign to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just is one of those pieces that, I always like to say one of the end quotes that I love to use, which is one I live by. Everyone's life is an autobiography. Make yours worth reading. And it's just the fact that we're all living stories. We're all doing our own autobiography. It doesn't mean you have to do dangerous things, but just a reminder that even those extraordinary things emerge out of ordinary. And if it's important to you, it's an important story to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Sam, for all that. And it's amazing that you came on my show and gave me a little insight about the two obstacles, the puzzle and the dice, and
Mhm.
and the journey that you've gone through, and the book that you came out with. And I'm grateful for that. I'll keep on contacting you as much as I can, and bother
Mhm.
you if I have any more questions. But thank you again, Sam.
No, definitely. And it's never a bother. It's a conversation. And this is what I live for.
Yeah, Sam, thank you again for coming on my show.
All right. Thank you.
So guys, we spoke with Sam. We talked about the basics of the basicness of life. I mean, technically that's what it is. We talked about the puzzle that, you know what? We all are a jigsaw puzzle. We all have to find the actual canvas that we're looking for and fit into that life. And that's what he said. It's very, very simple, as basic as that. And regarding the dice, you know all. It's about dice. You roll it, you get a money, or you get that number, whatever that number that you want. It's all about chances. It's all about a path that you want to take. And that's what all that numbers is all about. So guys, I hope that I've done my diligence of this Back to Basics on this episode. As usual, as always, there is a quote of the day. And you know what? Today you had 2 quotes from him, and third one is by me, as usual, as always. So here's a quote of the day. The quote of the day is, be who you are, say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. It's a twisted thing, but if I read it again, I'm pretty sure I'll be twisting it all over again. But as usual, as always, what do I always say at the end of the episode? Remember, everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, you take care, God bless. Keep on commenting me, good, bad, ugly, either way. It will make my show strong. It'll give you great content, great customer and clients and guests and everything, and of course, awesome host. Guys, take care, God bless, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Next week's episode on Back to Basics.
At 55, who's going to give you what job? And what kind of salary will you want? It's not going to work. Then he reminded me that I had told him Mumbai has fantastic opportunities in the acting, in Bollywood and all. So he said, you think you have it in you? Then why don't you go to Mumbai? But you have to go alone. Okay? And you will have to stay on your own. Nobody is going to come with you. And you have to find your way there. And we give you 6 months of time. In 6 months, if you haven't done anything worthwhile, then you will come back to Bangalore and we will see what you are going to do. So in Mumbai, actually, it is